How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a hot Texas day.
It's a muggy Minnesota day, so
Yeah, typical summer weather. Yes.
yeah.
Well, I want to introduce everyone. I'm speaking to Kara Brown. You joined Travel Quest Network. I think this is right in August of 2016,
Yep, that's right.
and you were a 2022 Monarch Agency of Excellence winner.
Yeah, I got my
And
thing over there.
and you're one of our crown jewels. So that's a pretty quick, upward trend for you joining, especially when you think about we had a couple of hiccup years in there. So
Mhm.
you're doing extremely well with your business.
Why, thank you.
And you were the winner of our Virgin Voyages cruise. And if we have time, I'll ask you about that. But right now, I want to quote something from your website that I think is very interesting. History fascinates me, architecture awes me, and people excite me. And right next to that is a photograph of you jumping for joy. And that just sucked me in. It just lured me in, and I found myself just surfing all through your website. And it's a very, very good website. So tell me, before I ask questions about that, how did you get started in the travel business?
Well, if I go way back, when I was in college, which was 2005 to 2008, I always kind of wanted to be a travel agent, but it seemed like they weren't around anymore because you didn't see as many travel agency brick and mortars anymore. And that's, was my only way of really having the, finger on the pulse of the travel agency industry. So I went for math instead because you can't go wrong with math. If you're good at it or if you can, adapt to be good at it, then you pretty
Mhm,
much have a place somewhere if you can
mhm.
say that you've got a
This
math degree.
this is
Um,
true. So true.
But then I also got a minor in classical Greek because I liked, all the mythology of Greece and also Roman mythology, but mainly Greece.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I had started in architecture and realized I'm not creative enough for that realm of creativity. But I learned a lot about like the Parthenon's architecture and things. And so I really, I felt like that was a way to get some of the um, less just let's get down to business with math, into
Right.
my degree. And then shortly after college, I planned a trip for some of my friends. We went to New York City and I made it a 3 day adventure. And with all in, it was less than $600 per person.
Wow.
And we went to a Broadway show as well. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
included in that. And I had it down like this was before smart, well, maybe not before smartphones in general, but before everyone had smartphones and
Right.
before Google Maps and all of that. So I had it down to an Excel spreadsheet to like the minute of how we would get to everything. So we did
Yeah.
everything in the 3 days, like all of the mainstay New York City stuff. But I
Mhm.
had it so that we were catching the subway at a specific location. I had the directions of how to walk to the subway station, which one to
Oh,
get at what
my.
time, how long we could spend at like the Natural History Museum, how long we could spend at the Museum of no, the art museum that's not the Museum of Fun, whatever. But I had it down, very
Right. Mhm.
very close. And so my friends that had gone with me were like, you should be a travel agent. You're very good at like organizing it. And we had a great time and we saw everything we wanted to see. And so I sort of just did some Google searches, when I was bored watching a show, and I came across host agency reviews and then started digging into that and learning all like, oh, travel agents are still around. They just, realize that there's a lot of overhead at a brick and mortar and I can work in my office and
Right.
save a lot of money. And so, it was then in the back of my head, but then I got married and had a kid. And I realized, I guess, through that, my dreams aren't going away and the world keeps moving, like I'm never going to have a perfect time to do this, travel agent thing. So
Yeah.
I might as well just jump in. So when I joined in August of 2016, I had a 1.25 year old baby.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it was not a like feet first, everything pushed forward type thing. It was slow, let's just dip our toes in, let's go a little bit further and just make sure along the
Yeah.
way that I'm not leaking my own cash into this in case it doesn't work out or in case I
Very
don't,
smart.
you know.
Mhm.
But we'll just keep going at an even keel until we get, to the point where we can go all the way in. And so that point didn't come until probably during COVID,
Yeah.
because now he's almost 5 now, but he was like able to do more things himself. And then that initial baby, she's 8 now, so she was doing stuff, and so I had more time to devote to really pushing it at that point. But it was those beginning years were very slow and steady, like the tortoise in that time.
Well, it doesn't seem to me like you did it slow, but I guess those pandemic years did create a slowdown anyway, whether you wanted to or not. Uh, so, did you always start out with the intention of doing immersive and cultural type travel? Was that
Yeah.
the goal to begin with?
Yes, my passion for when I travel is meeting the people in the area, and so I don't. I mean, Joshua and Jason make fun of me because I don't love cruises. I liked the Virgin one. That one was good. They did a
Uh-huh,
really good job of getting in a
uh-huh,
more immersive excursions
uh-huh,
and things. But
uh-huh,
so I don't usually sell cruises, like
uh-huh.
unless I would sell an uncruise or something like that where it's more
Yeah.
expedition based, but not like the big
Uh-huh,
big ones.
uh-huh.
And I go to all inclusives very rarely, and I sell them slightly less rarely because I live in Minnesota, so people want to just go somewhere fairly
That's right.
inexpensively to be warm. So I understand that. I can sell that,
Yeah,
and that's fine.
yes.
But I've always wanted to get people to experience more of the world than in the little bubble of the US that they're from. And, kind of to varying degrees, right? Not everybody wants to go and stay in someone's home in a third world country to see how they really live. Like, I understand that. But, we can still go and have a cooking class, or we can still do something
Yeah,
where it's more
yeah.
immersive and
Mhm,
seeing the locals and how they live and work and,
mhm,
just what they enjoy doing and stuff like that. That's always been a passion of mine to show my clients
mhm,
that.
mhm. Yes, yes. I enjoy that also when I travel. Even on cruises, I have found that the first cruise I ever went on, I spent a lot of time with some of the crew members, finding out how they live
Yeah,
and taking tours of the ship where, the public's not allowed. And that just kind of makes the experience more memorable, I guess.
I agree.
So, I've noticed on your website, you have a section called past trips,
Mhm.
and they're very interesting. And so do you get a lot of new customers who contact you and say, "I saw this trip on your website and want to, reproduce that trip, want to go on the exact same trip?"
No, not too many people want to reproduce it. That's more meant for
Mhm,
just like, hey, here's places I've sent people, so I have the
mhm,
expertise in these areas, and people have enjoyed it. And I don't put a day by day itinerary or anything there
mhm,
on purpose,
mhm,
really, because a lot of times, especially if the people have given me pictures of themselves on there, I don't want to be
mhm.
like so intrusive that I'm giving all the information about what they
Oh, yeah.
experienced and everything. So I kind of make it broad and just a general post
Mhm,
about the destination.
mhm,
But I do in my newsletters, I do once a month tell like a day by day itinerary without naming any names and with just doing generic pictures of the places that they're seeing, so that way people can see like this is kind of the type of tour I can provide you or I can build for you. And I
mhm,
have had people come off of that and say, I would, that's kind of what I want. Like, can we
mhm.
can we do that? And even in
Yeah.
that email newsletter, I put like, hey, I build everything customized basically, like unless you're
Mhm.
trying to join like a group trip, like Globus or something like that.
Right,
But
right.
for the FITs that I make, I'm not gonna just cookie cutter it out. Even if you tell me that's what you want, I'm gonna ask you about what it is that you enjoy doing, what you enjoy
Yeah.
seeing.
Uh-huh.
If you don't drink and those people did drink, then maybe you don't want to go to, a distillery tour, and I can find something else to take that time up. And
Welcome to a chocolate factory.
yeah, exactly. So I don't do cookie cutter itineraries,
Mhm.
in general.
Right. Well, I noticed that, and I saw even though they're not specific, I saw a couple of those past trips. I'm like, wow, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I get a lot of fear of missing out on all the trips. I'm like, oh, I didn't have that on my bucket list, but it sure is on there now.
You know what? I've never wanted to go to Cuba, not really. But when I looked at you're taking a group
Yeah,
next, what was it, March, next
yeah.
March? And
Hmm.
when I read your itinerary, I'm like, wow, maybe I do want to go to Cuba.
It was great. Like,
I want to do it.
I,
So you've done this trip. Was it just like that itinerary that you've done?
no, this
Or-
one's expanded actually. So the trip
Oh,
I took was just in Havana, and we went off like a day trip to Vinales, and this one is longer and it's going to several places outside of Havana. So I'm really excited too, because I'm like, oh, great! I'll bring all these people, and then I'll get to see Trinidad, and I'll get to see, like. So I'm
yeah.
quite excited. I still need two
Mhm.
more people to join for that to be a guarantee to go, but I feel like I can find two more.
Oh, I'm sure. Maybe this will help.
Yeah,
Look like a
exactly.
great trip. Go
Come
to
with
where
me.
you
I'm really
gotta
fun.
go. Or if you have customers that are interested and you're not up for the challenge,
Yeah,
send them with Kara. That'll
absolutely.
work. You talked about planning immersive trips from guided to individual. So, some of our new members planning an FIT trip could be
Mhm.
a little challenging, and maybe they want to start out with something that's already put together, guided. What could you recommend to a new member, like suppliers that we have that
Mhm.
are recommended by Travel Quest or Travel Leaders? Which ones have you used that you think are really good?
I love G Adventures and Intrepid. Those are my like,
Mhm.
dip your toe into the immersive experience. This is a way to go that you're for sure
Right.
going to have good reviews on them.
Mhm.
I've gone on a G Adventures trip to Iceland before. I've had lots of people go on Intrepid tours and have always had great things to say. And they're fairly moderate or lower budget too. So if you
Uh-huh.
have clients that maybe just they don't have that kind of cash to spend, but they still want to be immersed, like that's a great starting point. And they have different levels, so you can always upsell.
True.
um, and then as far as going past that, Globus is good. I kind of give a caveat that they tend to be older individuals
Uh-huh.
than the
Uh-huh.
G Adventures Intrepid tour people. So you kind of get the characteristics of your client and figure out which would fit, but they're good
Right.
too. They have a lot of cool offerings.
Uh-huh.
And then looking at the in-country partners that is on what's it called, Agent Universe, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
those I've used those before as well, and those are kind of great because if you're not familiar with some place, you can kind of utilize them to have the familiarity of the destination and make you look like a rock star at the same time. Um, I do find that they tend towards more luxury, budgets. And then I've just started using GoWay a lot again. I used them for Australia probably pre-pandemic. And then
Mhm.
I hadn't gotten a lot of inquiries for kind of the Asia and Australia, that
Uh-huh.
area.
Uh-huh.
And recently everyone's wanted to go to Thailand. Like I don't know where that came from, but I've been using them and they are budget friendly because most of my clients they're not luxury. They're budget to moderate level. So they've been good for pricing things, and they go all over the world, but I've used them primarily for Southeast Asia and Australia.
Okay. And when you talk about working with local suppliers, are there some that you've just kind of discovered on your own that you feel
Yeah.
comfortable using?
Yeah, so my setup might be a bit different than like a new agent's because I have it set up where I can take client payments. I have my insurance. I have all of the things set up that way. So I would not
Right,
necessarily recommend that for a new, just
right,
starting out into the
yeah.
business. But I found some of those, very very local,
Mhm,
DMCs and things that. They're wonderful. Like I just have one right today that I paid, but they do a lot for the even more immersive. Like even on top of what G Adventures or
mhm,
Intrepid could offer, they're even going
mhm,
past that sometimes. But
mhm.
I've mainly made connections with them through conferences that I've gone to. So during
Oh,
the pandemic, there was a bunch of
right.
virtual conferences that I joined up for Central America and South America, and
Mhm.
so I made connections with some of them, and I have have like notebooks filled with my notes and like did I like them, did they seem like they
Mhm,
understood what I was saying, and like making sure that I had not just like yes this is they are commissionable or they're not or they
mhm,
the administrative details, but also my like vibe I guess that I got from them,
mhm.
because that's what I tell new clients that are coming on to me to say like we do an initial video consult because
Oh, uh-huh.
not only is it important for me to get all of your details about your trip, but it's important to me that you enjoy my vibe and that it's not off putting to you because I understand I'm not for everyone. I am like, I don't know, I'm kind of a squirrel over here and I can get things done and I'm very organized, but if you don't see inside my head, sometimes it seems like
Mhm.
I'm not. And so, with that said, I always tell my clients if you aren't feeling like confident in me, I don't want you as a client, not because I don't want you as a client, but because I want you to feel comfortable and knowing that you're
Right.
handing over all your trip planning, and being confident that I'm going to produce something that you will like basically and that you're
Yeah,
confident, comfortable telling me if you don't like it.
right.
Um, and so the same goes for me. I'm not going to go and use a supplier that I've never met before, generally, unless I've got a lot of people either telling me that they're great or that I have met them in person or, virtually and gotten that same kind of vibe. Like, okay, you
Mhm.
understand me. I understand you. We're good.
So is that pretty much how you determine whether they're reliable and trustworthy by
Oh, no, I search too. I do Google searches,
meeting them
make
and but
sure they're,
getting referrals, I guess?
yes. Uh
Yeah.
huh.
Oh, okay, good, good, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so you also have on your website the top 5 reasons why someone should use a travel agent. And I thought it was one of the clearest and easiest to understand explanations of that question I've ever seen.
Oh, well, great.
I just thought
Uh,
it was great. And so I encourage also, again, new members because you know what? We're all asked that at some point. We'll be dealing with a customer, and if they're new and you're telling them about the trip or you're explaining, and I've been stopped, and they'll say, well, I think I could do this on my own. Why should I use you?
mhm.
And sometimes that just kind of brings you up short, but you know what? You've got it pretty much pinpointed.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I love that. So I recommend that new members go to your website. Let's see, your website is, I have it written down here. Go ahead and give me your website.
Experienceculturetravel.com.
That's right. Because I do, and I hope you don't mind me pointing that out. But I just think that that's, something that every agent, especially if you're new, you've got to be able to explain your worth of why
Hmm.
they should use you and why your business would be good for them.
Yeah.
So before we, completely run out of time, I wanted to, ask you, I kind of skipped over this. You said, and you mentioned it, the Virgin Voyages cruise. So you don't normally sell cruises. It's not really your thing, but you enjoy that one.
Yeah, that was really cool. So I've only been on two like ocean cruises before. Well, two cruises at all. I guess you can't count Lake Minnetonka cruises. That's
I
but
do.
two overnight cruises, we'll say.
Yeah.
And the prior one I took was kind of boring to me because they had like art shows and they had like it was the more of the typical, at least what I hear is typical as
Right.
for cruising and what the activities are on the days at seas.
Mhm.
And it just I didn't find it that thrilling. It wasn't something that I felt like I ever wanted to reproduce.
Right.
Uh, and so this Virgin cruise was I was trying to get it so that my husband and I could come, but he ended up not being able to. So I actually took another fellow Travel Quest agent on it. So
I saw
she'd
that.
already been.
Yeah.
It was Katie Turpin. If
Lady
I'm sure
Trooper.
people have
Mhm.
seen her on the
Uh-huh.
chat and everything, but I really enjoyed it. They had a lot more variety for things to do on board when
Mhm.
it was, days at sea. I love trivia, so we were there every single trivia option that they had, and we would get second each time. It was like always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Um, and but the excursions were really what kind of drew me to it because when we went to Dominican Republic, and there we took a tour that toured us through a cheese factory. So
Oh, okay.
we were this close to pieces of cheeses that they were selling to
Uh-huh.
Dominican
Uh-huh.
people, and
Uh-huh.
it was really cool because they walked it through and said, okay, first this is what we do with the milk to start it
Yes.
and all of that, and that's like exactly the type of thing that I like to do, and see behind the scenes, not just go snorkel. I mean, snorkeling's fun. I like to snorkel or I like kayaking, but I like to see things that the average person wouldn't know or see,
Right.
in the destination. So that was really fun. And then, we were off the cruise world area there. So it was the dichotomy between like here's the gate and everything over here looks exactly like Florida basically, and this was in Bahamas at this point. So at the
Yeah.
Bahamas is like everything over here is the U.S. basically, but then we're gonna go off and we're gonna go into like Bimini, the actual town, and drive around. And it was really cool. We went to see how they get conch, for their like
Uh-huh.
special conch dishes and everything. And like he showed us, and we weren't as thrilled about seeing him kill a conch right in front of us, but it was something that not everyone sees. So,
That is
and that
very immersive.
yeah, it was very immersive. And I didn't realize that they were like, I guess that they were alive, like I didn't. So I was like, oh, okay. So there really is something in these shells. Cool. Okay, well, it's not there anymore. It's dead now. But then we got to taste it, like not at that place, but later we
Uh-huh.
got, to
Uh-huh.
taste and it was really good. So it's like, oh, okay. That was really, I like that part of seeing like, okay, this isn't just the US in a different country. This is what that country looks like, and this is the type of houses they live in. This is the state of repair or disrepair that is
Right.
average, on the
Right.
main street, and kind of just learning about that. So that was
Mhm.
really fun.
Well, I'm glad that it sounds like they had some different types of excursions that could appeal, you know.
Yeah, and it wasn't just those two. Like I was having trouble picking on a couple of
Oh,
that there were more than just like one immersive option
uh-huh,
per
uh-huh,
port. So I
right,
liked that as well, that it was
yeah,
varied. So if you ever did it again, you could try the next one.
right. Well, this is great. I had other questions about your website. We'll just have to save that for another conversation, but I truly am impressed with your business and the website that you've got, and, you're a shining example for our membership.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, so I've enjoyed our talk, and I look forward to speaking to you again. Are you going to World this year?
Sure am.
I
So
will see you
excited.
there then. All right. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.